911, what's the emergency?
34 hoaxes, 7 levels. This is an iceberg made up of the darkest and most disturbing deceptions to ever exist. We'll start with the slightly bizarre and gradually make our way to the most unsettling and horrifying hoaxes in history. Let's begin at the tip of the iceberg. Level 1. Balloon Boy. It was October 15, 2009, and in Fort Collins, Colorado, Richard and Mayumi Heen were frantic. Their faces were all over the news, terrified because their 6-year-old son, Falcon, had accidentally floated away in a homemade helium-filled balloon shaped like a flying saucer. Within hours, officials all over the United States began a massive search operation with National Guard helicopters and local police chasing the balloon as it drifted across Colorado for 90 minutes, reaching altitudes of up to 7,000 feet. Live news coverage followed the entire thing, leaving millions of people terrified for the fate of this little boy. Eventually, the balloon came to a safe landing 50 miles from where it had taken off. But then, when the authorities looked inside, Falcon was not there. Authorities were concerned that he might have fallen out during the flight, but it turns out that Falcon was never in the balloon, not even once. The entire time the world had been freaking out, Falcon was hiding in the attic of his family's home where he had been the whole time. Obviously, suspicions of a hoax came up pretty quickly, especially after Falcon mentioned on live TV that his family had told him they did all of this for the show. The police investigation revealed that the Heens had planned the stunt to gain publicity for a potential reality TV show down the line. Richard Heen pleaded guilty to a felony charge of attempting to influence a public servant, while Mayumi Heen pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor of false reporting. They received jail time and were ordered to pay $36,000 in restitution. To this day, the Heen family maintains their innocence, claiming they genuinely believed Falcon was in danger and never once lied about the incident. In 2020, Colorado Governor Jared Polis pardoned the couple, though they did not admit to committing a hoax in their pardon application. Nigerian Prince Hoax. When you drill down, all cons are twists on the old classics. The Nigerian Prince scam is a long-running con that has evolved with the help of technology. Back in the day, this scam was conducted through postal mail, but the invention of the internet made it easier than ever to scam people. Usually, the scam begins with a fraudster posing as a wealthy person, claiming to be Nigerian royalty or a government official, who needs assistance transferring a large sum of money out of their country. The scammer promises the victim a substantial share of the funds in exchange for their help, usually involving an upfront payment or personal banking information. However, the origins of this go way back to the 19th century, with the Spanish prisoner scam. Back then, a con artist would tell a fake story about a rich person imprisoned under a false identity in Spain. The mark would give money to help him escape, and then the con artist would invent more problems to get more money and eventually drain the mark entirely. By the 1980s and 1990s, Nigeria became the hub for these kinds of scams, earning its name. But now, thanks to the internet, it's a worldwide con. And even though we all know it, the Nigerian Prince scam continues to hit, with Americans losing around $700,000 every year to these schemes. And thanks to AI, these scams are only going to get more and more convincing. This man. In 2008, a website suddenly appeared called Ever Dream This Man? It told the story of a mysterious man who had been appearing in the dreams of many people worldwide since 2006. According to the website, the first reported sighting of this man occurred in January 2006, when a patient of a New York psychiatrist drew the face of a man she said had been appearing in her dreams. The story claimed that other patients and the same psychiatrist also recognized the face, leading to a widespread investigation. The website presented an identikit image of this man and soon collected over 8,000 accounts from people who claimed to to have encountered him in their dreams. Nobody knew who he was, and nobody had the same experience. Some described him as pleasant, others as menacing. The phenomenon quickly spread across the internet. Suddenly, flyers featuring the identikit image and the website address were being distributed in various cities, and the total lack of an apparent commercial motive just made people more convinced that this strange man was everywhere. But in reality, it was all one big lie. This man was a conceptual art project created by Italian sociologist and marketer Andrea Natella, but he didn't admit it until 2010. He eventually admitted that he had fabricated the narrative and based the original sketch on a photo of his father when he was young. But even though its creator had debunked it, serious coverage of this man continued into the mid-2010s. Some people still claim that they saw him in their dreams. Cardiff Giant. In October 1869, workers in Cardiff, New York allegedly discovered a 10-foot-tall petrified man on William Newell's farm. The giant weighed about 3,000 pounds, but it was not a discovery. It was actually the creation of George Hull, a businessman and atheist from Binghamton. After an argument with a preacher about biblical literalism, George had dreamed up the idea to prove him wrong. He commissioned a massive block of gypsum which he would carve into a human-like figure, artificially age, and secretly bury on Newell's farm. The entire scam cost him $3,000. When it was discovered, the giant attracted thousands of paying visitors. Each one charged 50 cents for a viewing. And long before the internet, it went viral the old-fashioned way. National newspapers covered the discovery constantly, with some theologians claiming it as proof of biblical giants. However, skepticism grew among scientists. Yale paleontologist Othniel C. Marsh declared it a most decided humbug, pointing out that the water-soluble gypsum could never have survived long underground. But as the giant's popularity soared, the so-called greatest showman P.T. Barnum offered $50,000 to purchase it. But when he was rejected, he created his own replica, claiming it was the real giant. Suddenly, two fake giants were competing for public attention. Months later, in February 1870, after several months of exposés and leaks, including George himself bragging of this hoax, the scheme was out in the open. George claimed his motivation was to expose the gullibility of those who believed in biblical literalism and to make money in the process. And in his eyes, he did both. Today, the original Cardiff Giant is displayed at the Farmers Museum in Cooperstown, New York. Only this time, everybody knows it's a fraud. Level 2. Charge your phone with a microwave. In September 2014, a viral hoax circulated on social media platforms claiming that Apple's newly released iOS 8 operating system included a feature called Wave. This new groundbreaking feature would allow users to charge their iPhones by placing them in a microwave oven. Of course, Apple had never dreamed up that exceptionally dangerous idea, but it quickly gained traction online. The unknown creator of the hoax designed a fake advertisement indistinguishable from Apple's official promotions, complete with the company's signature style, fonts, and copyright symbol. It claimed that iOS 8 contained new drivers that could interface with the device's radio baseband, allowing it to synchronize with microwave frequencies for rapid charging. It even provided specific instructions, suggesting users could fully charge their iPhones by microwaving them for 1 minute. Los Angeles authorities suddenly found themselves having to attend to incidents where people's homes were burning down or even suffering kitchen explosions because they actually attempted to microwave their iPhones. The Los Angeles Police Department and fire departments had to warn the public about the dangerous hoax. Fortunately, nobody died as a result of the hoax, but it's pretty easy to see how close they came to that statistic changing. Lonely Girl 15. In 2006, not long after the initial launch of YouTube, one channel began to make more of an impact than any other. Lonely Girl 15 uploaded a series of YouTube videos featuring a seemingly ordinary 16-year-old girl named Bree, who shared her daily life experiences through vlogs. At first, Bree's videos gained popularity due to her relatable personality and the mysterious elements surrounding her life, including her strict religious upbringing and homeschooling. But over time, something became strange. The videos shifted to include mysterious religious practices within Bree's family and the disappearance of her parents after she refused to participate in a secretive ceremony. Suddenly, viewers began to question the authenticity of her videos. The production quality, consistent lighting, well-edited content, and wild, unsettling twists raised suspicion among some fans. The pre-registration of the LonelyGirl15.com domain name before the first video was posted just fueled even more suspicion. But with all these red flags, many viewers remained convinced that Bree was real. The early days of YouTube and social media meant that people were less skeptical of online content and had limited experience with scripted reality formats. The creators of Lonely Girl 15 skillfully exploited this naivete, making people buy into it entirely. However, the final blow came when journalist Tom Formsky's son uncovered the true identity of Bree as actress Jessica Lee Rose through a cached MySpace profile. There was no other choice. In September 2006, the creators confirmed that the whole thing was conceived as an experiment in interactive storytelling, one that would go on to be replicated by many other people looking to take advantage of the YouTube platform for storytelling. Redheads are going extinct. In 2005, news outlets worldwide began reporting on an insane study by the Oxford Hair Foundation, which had allegedly discovered that redheads were going extinct. Allegedly, they would disappear by as early as 2060. But a deeper dive into the hoax revealed that Procter & Gamble, a major manufacturer of hair dye products, was a major source of funding for the Oxford Hair Foundation. Their so-called studies said all redheads would be extinct by the decade's end due to the gene variant responsible for red hair slowly disappearing. Of course, this was a pretty blatant attempt to scare people into generating interest in hair color products, building on the fear and raising their own profits. But this was not the only claim about redhead extinction. Alistair Moffat, CEO of the now-defunct genetic testing company Scotland's DNA, made some exaggerated claims linking redhead extinction to climate change. An insane link, but one he claimed was rooted in something very real. Scientific experts did not agree whatsoever. In reality, the genetics of red hair are more complex than these simplified extinction claims would suggest. Red hair is caused by a recessive gene, meaning it can skip generations and reappear when both parents carry the gene, regardless of their hair color. While redheads may be rare, comprising only 1 to 2% of the global population, the potential for red hair is not disappearing. Geneticists and researchers have consistently refuted these extinction claims. Unless all carriers of the red hair gene die out simultaneously, which is highly unlikely, redheads will continue to be born, and companies will continue to profit from fear. Helicopter shark. In the early 2000s, the internet had a new photo to obsess over. The helicopter shark photo depicts a great white shark leaping out of the water, seemingly about to attack military personnel climbing a ladder suspended from a helicopter. This striking composition quickly spread across the internet, often accompanied by the claim that it had won National Geographic Photo of the Year, but it was completely fake. Actually, the image is a composite of two totally unrelated photos. The helicopter portion was taken by Lance Chung for the United States Air Force, showing an HH-60G Pavehawk helicopter near the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. South African photographer Charles Maxwell captured the shark image in False Bay, South Africa. both on completely opposing sides of the world. However, the hoax was sent worldwide through email chains and social media, and many people believed it to be authentic. However, National Geographic publicly rejected any connection to the image and the alleged award. The scene was utterly implausible, if not impossible. If a great white shark attacked a helicopter in San Francisco Bay, wouldn't everybody have known about it? But the real unraveling came when people started to note that this photo was very similar to a scene in the 1966 Batman movie, in which a shark attacks Batman on a ladder from a helicopter. Eventually, experts tracked down the original two photos, confirming that the whole thing was entirely constructed and fabricated. By the time the image was thoroughly debunked, it had become a massive meme. The shark was photoshopped into various unlikely scenarios, particularly during natural disasters like hurricanes, which would create a sharknado. But you can create an even bigger miracle if you hit that like and subscribe button below. Let's continue. Hashtag bald for Bieber. In October 2012, 4chan decided it would troll one of the biggest fandoms in the world, Beliebers. The trolls began creating fake tweets that appeared to be from the Entertainment Tonight Twitter account, announcing that Justin Bieber had been diagnosed with cancer. But to make it seem even more convincing, they also forged a response tweet from Bieber himself, thanking fans for their support. They also manipulated Wikipedia entries, spammed chat rooms, and created fake news posts and Facebook pages. In a matter of days, they had created an entirely fake world that all of the Beliebers followed without question. The trolls were thrilled with what they had done, but they saw an opportunity to take it further. These primarily young female fans would do anything for him. So, they introduced the hashtag #BaldForBieber on Twitter, encouraging fans to shave their heads in solidarity with the singer. They circulated photoshopped images of bald individuals to convince the fans, claiming they were Bieber fans who had shaved their heads in support. The message was, if you're a real fan, you'll do it. And, of course, many people agreed to do it, all in solidarity with the young man who did not even have cancer. Pretty soon, the hoax was so big that some news outlets reported on the trend without bothering to verify if it was true. But within a few days, most media sources had debunked the story. And the situation had become so chaotic that Justin Bieber's bodyguard, Kenny Hamilton, took to Twitter to deny the false diagnosis. Justin was alive and well, but many young women were now completely bald. Level 3. Killer clown sightings. In August 2016, unsubstantiated reports began to filter out, claiming that children in South Carolina were being lured into the woods by strange, unsettling men in clown outfits. Within weeks, people all over the United States were reporting seeing the same thing, terrifying clown figures lurking all over the country. As the phenomenon gained traction, sightings were reported in at least 18 other countries. The incidents ranged from harmless pranks to more serious threats and, in some cases, even violent acts. Individuals dressed as clowns were seen lurking in public spaces, chasing people, or making threats on social media. Suddenly, schools were on lockdown, police were arresting more clowns than ever, and children and young adults were terrified. But while social media and news coverage amplified the clown panic, many of the reported sightings turned out to be hoaxes or misunderstandings, with more arrests made for false reports than actual clown-related crimes. However, there were multiple incidents involving real threats or violence, including robberies and assaults by individuals in clown costumes. Daily life had been completely disrupted. The police had to respond to fake reports, and innocent people were being attacked on suspicion of being clowns. Professional clowns and businesses selling clown-related merchandise had their worst year in history. But by late October 2016, the phenomenon had begun to fade. It left a lasting impact on popular culture and public perception of clowns that, even now, has not changed. White House Death Star Petition. In 2012, an engineer known as BTE Dan launched a White House petition calling for a feasibility study and conceptual design of a real-life USS Enterprise from Star Trek. The petition aimed to gather 25,000 signatures within 30 days to prompt an official response from the Obama administration. But despite massive online interest, the Enterprise petition ultimately fell short of the required signatures, receiving only 7,387 by the deadline. This failure meant the White House was not obligated to issue an official response. Still, the Star Wars fans felt like they had to respond. They launched a similar petition to construct a Death Star, and that proved way more successful. Launched in November 2012, it quickly surpassed the 25,000 signature threshold, amassing over 34,000 signatures. The White House, true to its commitment, issued a half-humorous response titled, "This isn't the petition response you're looking for." The chief of the Science and Space Branch at the Office of Management and Budget cited several reasons for rejecting the Death Star proposal. They said that the estimated cost of $850 quadrillion was deemed too expensive, that the Obama administration did not support blowing up planets, and that the Death Star's fundamental flaw, exploitable by a one-man starship, made it an impractical investment. While rejecting the Death Star, the response highlighted existing space achievements, including the International Space Station and Mars rovers. It also encouraged citizens to pursue careers in STEM. Space Cadets. In 2005, Space Cadets hit British airwaves for the first time and became one of the most elaborate hoaxes in television history. The series aimed to convince a group of contestants that they were being trained as cosmonauts for a 5-day trip into low Earth orbit. But in reality, none of that happened. The show's premise featured 12 contestants selected for their gullibility and lack of scientific knowledge, who were led to believe they were participating in a program called Thrill Seekers. They were told they would be training at a Russian military base before embarking on an actual space mission. But in reality, the entire production was filmed at a former RAF base in Suffolk, England. The production team went to extreme lengths to maintain the illusion. They replaced light switches and electrical outlets with Russian standards, stocked the facility with Russian-branded foods and toiletries, provided Russian cigarettes to smoking crew members, and employed people to clear the site of British-branded litter. The contestants underwent fake training exercises, including nonsensical Russian language lessons and absurd space experiments like making balloon animals. But to make it even more confusing, 3 of the cadets were actors, planted to reinforce the illusion and misdirect any suspicious contestants. The hoax culminated in a simulated spaceflight using a wooden shuttle with actor pilots. The contestants were shown pre-recorded footage of Earth from space, eliciting genuine emotional responses. The reveal came on the final day when the contestants were prepared for a spacewalk. Host Johnny Vaughn showed them a montage of their suspicions, followed by an outside shot of the simulator. The module door opened to a studio set with their friends, family, and the actors, finally exposing the elaborate prank. Cockroach therapy. In 1981, artist Joey Skaggs orchestrated an elaborate hoax called the Metamorphosis Cockroach Miracle Cure. Joey adopted an entirely new persona, Dr. Josef Gregor, and held a press conference in New York City. Dressed in a white suit adorned with fake cockroaches, Skaggs claimed to have developed a miracle cure derived from hormones extracted from super cockroaches. He asserted that this cure could treat various ailments, including acne, anemia, and radiation exposure. Skaggs presented the cure as a gift to humanity, accompanied by friends and students from the School of Visual Arts. Despite the absurdity of the claims and overt references to Franz Kafka's story with the same title, the media failed to see that it was a hoax. The story gained significant traction with major news outlets like UPI and WNBC TV covering the event without any hint of skepticism. Skaggs, in character as Dr. Gregor, even appeared on WNBC TV's Live at 5 program where he was interviewed about his supposed discovery. The hoax was designed to highlight the media's susceptibility to sensational stories and their failure to fact-check information before publication. It served as a critique of both media practices and public gullibility, and they blindly fell for it. But eventually, Skaggs revealed the stunt as a hoax. The cockroach cure hoax became one of Skaggs' most famous works. The Well to Hell. The Well to Hell is a captivating urban legend that emerged in the late 1980s, centered around a supposed deep borehole drilled by Russian scientists in Siberia. According to the tale, the team of geologists led by Mr. Azakov drilled to a depth of about 14.5 kilometers when they made a startling discovery. The story claims that the drill suddenly rotated wildly, breaking into a hollow cavity. Intrigued, the scientists lowered heat-resistant equipment and microphones into the hole. They recorded temperatures of around 1100 degrees Celsius, and more shockingly, captured about 17 seconds of audio before the equipment melted. The recorded sounds allegedly contained the agonized screams of millions of souls, interpreted as the cries of the damned in hell. The chilling discovery reportedly caused many of the scientists to flee the site in terror. In some versions of the legend, the incident escalated further. A plume of luminous gas erupted from the borehole, forming the shape of a gigantic winged demon. The words, "I have conquered," appeared in Russian, seared into the flames. The story spread rapidly through Christian publications and networks, with some citing it as proof of hell's physical existence. However, as the tale gained popularity, skeptics began to investigate and debunk it. The Well to Hell story is now widely recognized as an urban legend, with the supposed audio recording identified as a manipulated sound effect. The Montauk Monster. In July 2008, a mysterious animal carcass washed ashore on Ditch Plains Beach near Montauk, New York, but nobody had any idea what the hell it was. Hairless, bloated, and unlike any known animal, the carcass quickly became an internet sensation as everyone took their wildest guesses. Photographs of the creature circulated widely online, fueling various theories about its identity. While some experts suggested it was likely a decomposed raccoon or dog, others proposed more creative and exotic explanations. Chupacabras, rotting otters, even Satan himself were all suggested. However, the lack of physical evidence beyond photographs made it challenging for scientists to provide a conclusive answer. But the Montauk Monster just happened to have been found near the site of the alleged Montauk Project. The Montauk Project, a series of purported secret government experiments, is said to have taken place at a decommissioned military base in Montauk. Conspiracy theorists claim that these experiments involve mind control, time travel, and even the creation of strange creatures, just like this thing. They believe that the Montauk Monster could be a result of genetic experiments conducted as part of the Montauk Project. Others linked it to the nearby Plum Island Animal Disease Center, suggesting it might be an escaped experiment or mutant. Despite numerous attempts to identify the creature, no definitive conclusion has been reached. 2013 Zombie EAS. On February 11, 2013, viewers of KRTV were shocked when their regular afternoon programming was interrupted by an emergency alert claiming that bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Suddenly, the same message spread to other stations in Michigan, Wisconsin, and New Mexico, affecting CBS, ABC, and PBS affiliates. The message warned of zombie activity in specific counties and advised viewers not to approach or apprehend these extremely dangerous bodies. but local authorities promptly declared the alert a hoax. Hackers had exploited vulnerabilities in the station's emergency alert equipment, including authentication bypass security weaknesses and the use of default passwords listed in online user manuals. The system is designed to allow the president to address the entire country within 10 minutes of a national crisis, but that system was too weak. Suddenly, the zombie hoax had far-reaching consequences, attracting international attention and prompting calls to police departments from as far away as Australia, the UK, and India. In response to the breach, the Federal Communications Commission strongly prohibited using actual or simulated EAS tones outside of genuine emergencies to prevent similar incidents in the future. Pope Joan. According to legend, Pope Joan was an exceptionally intelligent and learned woman who lived in the 9th century. Born in Mainz, Germany, to English parents, she fell in love with a monk and disguised herself as a man to follow him to Athens. But Joan was a lot more than she seemed. Joan's intellectual gifts allowed her to rise through the ranks of the Catholic Church, eventually leading to her unanimous election as Pope in 855. She allegedly reigned for 2 years, 7 months, and 4 days under the name Pope John VIII, and nobody suspected a thing. Until the one thing she couldn't hide came out. During a papal procession, Joan suddenly went into labor. For 9 months, she managed to conceal her growing bump, but according to the story, she gave birth in the street, exposing her secret and shocking the public and the church. What happened to Joan isn't known. Some accounts say that Joan died shortly after, either through murder or natural causes. Others claim she was tied to a horse and dragged around the city before being executed. The legend also suggests that subsequent popes avoided the street where this incident occurred and implemented new rituals to ensure future popes were men. But actually, there's not even a sign that any of this was real. While the story of Pope Joan was widely believed for centuries, modern scholars generally regard it as fiction. There's no proof of her existence, no remnants of her so-called reign. For all we know, she just never existed. Though some coins may offer a potential clue. Level 4. 2012 Apocalypse. In 2012, word began to spread that the end times were near. According to doomsday theorists and pseudoscientific scholars, the Mayan long count calendar was due to complete a 5,125-year cycle on December 21st, 2012, and in doing so, it would doom us all. Various catastrophic scenarios were proposed. Earth would collide with a mythical planet called Nibiru, or Planet X. Massive solar flares would disrupt everything and kill us all. Earth's magnetic poles would be reversed. The world would be flooded or burned. But scientists constantly debunked these theories. They emphasized that there was no scientific basis for any of the doomsday predictions. The Mayan calendar's cycle ending was simply the start of a new cycle, similar to how our modern calendars reset each year. Still, the hoax had real-world consequences, with reports of people considering suicide or contemplating harming their children due to fear of the impending apocalypse. This led government agencies and scientific institutions to actively combat the misinformation, with NASA even creating a dedicated webpage to address common misconceptions. Ultimately, December 21st, 2012 passed without incident, joining a long list of failed doomsday predictions throughout history. Casey Nicole blog. In 1999, a blog appeared on the internet. 19-year-old Casey Nicole Swenson was documenting her journey and battle against leukemia. Before long, the blog gained a significant following, with readers offering support, sending gifts, and even communicating with Casey via phone and email. The emotional connection between Casey and her online community was profound, even though no one ever met her in person. Of course, they couldn't, because Casey wasn't real. The person behind the blog was Debbie Swenson, a middle-aged woman from Kansas. On May 14, 2001, Swenson announced Casey's death, triggering an outpouring of grief from her online supporters. But suddenly, all of the inconsistencies in the story led to suspicions from the community. Something was wrong here. Members of the Metafilter community began investigating, uncovering discrepancies such as the lack of an obituary and in the impossibly quick cremation. As the investigation progressed, it was revealed that the photos used for Casey were of an actual high school basketball player unrelated to the hoax. The story unraveled quickly, and on May 20th, 2001, Debbie Swenson confessed that Casey Nicole had never existed. Swenson claimed that Casey was a composite of 3 real people she knew who had cancer, and that she intended to share their stories of strength and courage. However, the revelation left many feeling betrayed and raised questions about online identity and trust. Bye-bye, Belgium. On December 13, 2006, the French-language Belgian public TV station RTBF interrupted its programming with a fake news bulletin claiming that the Flemish Parliament had declared independence from Belgium. The broadcast cut to footage of cheering crowds waving Flemish flags, interviews with Belgian politicians, and even scenes of the royal family supposedly fleeing the country. The broadcast caused widespread panic and confusion among viewers. RTBF's hotline was inundated with 2,600 calls, and their website crashed due to the surge in traffic. After 30 minutes, the station displayed an on-screen message identifying the broadcast as fiction, following a demand from the media minister of the French-speaking community. In fact, the whole thing was meticulously planned over 2 years under the codename BBB for Bye Bye Belgium. The hoax highlighted the intensity of Belgium's political issues and the possibility of the country splitting. It was created in the middle of rising Flemish separatism. The people were angry, and the show just made it so much worse. The stunt provoked outrage and condemnation from the prominent Belgian politicians, including the Prime Minister and regional leaders. International reactions were also critical, with Luxembourg's Prime Minister expressing anger at the broadcast. While RTBF initially defended the program as a way to spark debate on Belgium's future, they later apologized for the emotional distress caused to viewers. The Centrifuge Brain Project. In 2011, Till Nowak created the Centrifuge Brain Project. This clever mockumentary short film presented itself as a serious scientific documentary about extreme amusement park rides and their effects on the human brain. The project centers around the fictional Institute for Centrifugal Research and its chief engineer, Dr. Nick Laslowitz, portrayed by actor Leslie Barney. Dr. Laslowitz explains the Institute's mission to expand human cognitive abilities through increasingly outlandish and physically impossible amusement park rides. However, the combination of live-action footage with convincing CGI, the realistic documentary style, and the deadpan humor just made the joke fly over everyone's heads. The line between fiction and reality was blurred. Despite Nowak's intention to create an obviously absurd scenario, many viewers, including some on social media platforms like Facebook, believed the project to be authentic. Even the creation of a website for the Fictional Research Institute contributed to this confusion. Comments on various internet platforms, including Facebook, showed that many people questioned whether these extreme rides actually existed. Missing Day. According to some Christians, NASA scientists, while using computers to calculate the positions of celestial bodies, discovered a missing day in the universe's history. This missing time was said to correspond to the biblical account of Joshua's long day in Joshua 10 verses 12 to 13, where the sun and moon allegedly stood still to make an eclipse. According to the legend, NASA's computers found 23 hours and 20 minutes missing, which was attributed to Joshua's long day. The remaining 40 minutes were then linked to the account of King Hezekiah's sundial moving backwards in 2 Kings 20 verses 9 to 11. This story has been presented as scientific proof of the Bible's accuracy. However, this tale is entirely fictitious. The core elements of the story predate NASA and modern computers, with similar versions appearing as early as the late 19th century. In 1936, Harry Rimmer's book, The Harmony of Science and Scripture, included a comparable narrative which was later embellished with references to NASA and advanced computing. However, the claim is scientifically impossible for several reasons. For one thing, even detecting a missing day would require a fixed reference point before Joshua was around, which doesn't exist. For another, there are no ancient astronomical records with the precision needed to identify a 24-hour discrepancy. And besides, the earliest recorded solar eclipse occurred in 1217 BC, long after Joshua's time. So, none of the claims can be supported by credible scientific evidence, making it a pretty open and shut hoax. Seriously, McDonald's. In June 2011, a photograph went viral. It featured a fake sign allegedly posted at a McDonald's restaurant which claimed that African American customers were required to pay an additional $1.50 per transaction as an insurance measure due to recent robberies. But the image had actually been circulating on the internet for about a year before it went viral. It first appeared on a blog called McServed.com in June 2010, which was known for mocking McDonald's and its customers. However, in June 2011, the photo gained traction on Twitter, spreading rapidly under the hashtag Seriously McDonald's and Seriously McDonald's. As the image went viral, it sparked outrage and disbelief among social media users. The speed at which the photo spread was remarkable, with the hashtag reportedly being used about 20 times per second throughout a weekend. McDonald's responded swiftly to the hoax, tweeting, "That pic is a senseless and ignorant hoax. McD's values all our customers. Diversity runs deep in our culture on both sides of the counter." Despite the company's denial, the image continued to trend on Twitter for several days. The story did eventually fade, but it took a lot of public humiliation and damage control for McDonald's to fully recover. Manbeef.com. In early 2001, someone on the internet discovered a new and bizarre website called manbeef.com. The website claimed to sell human flesh for consumption, targeting sophisticated cannibals as its primary audience. The website presented itself as a legitimate business selling processed human meat products. It featured product descriptions, pricing information, and even an FAQ section addressing common concerns about the legality and ethics of consuming human flesh. The creators went to great lengths to make the site appear authentic, which contributed to its widespread impact. Manbeef.com's provocative content sparked intense debate and controversy across the internet. Many users were unsure whether the site was genuine or a hoax, leading to heated discussions about its authenticity. At its peak, the website reportedly received up to 500,000 hits per day, demonstrating the extent of its reach and the public's fascination with the concept. But it wasn't until the US FDA itself started an investigation that the creator of the website felt he had to come forward. Joseph Christofferson, the self-proclaimed CEO of Manbeef, admitted in print that the entire operation was a hoax. However, the true identities of the creators remained concealed for some time. In reality, the creators were Chris Ellerby and Joseph Millay, and they had succeeded at what they wanted: to parody the specialty food sites filling the internet at the time. CERN Ritual. The CERN ritual hoax was a viral video that emerged in August 2016 depicting an apparent occult ceremony on the grounds of CERN, European Organization for Nuclear Research, in Geneva, Switzerland. The video showed several individuals in black robes gathered around the statue of the Hindu deity Shiva, which stands at the CERN facility, seemingly performing a mock human sacrifice. The footage, filmed from a nearby building, captured the cloaked figures surrounding a woman lying on the ground. At the climax of the ritual, one figure appeared to stab the woman. The person recording the video then cursed and fled. CERN officials quickly responded to the video, confirming it was filmed on their premises without official permission or knowledge. They stated that the video was a prank, emphasizing that no one was harmed during its creation. CERN condemned the spoof, noting it could lead to misunderstandings about the scientific nature of their work. The incident sparked an internal investigation at CERN. Given the facility's tight security measures, it was determined that those involved must have had access badges, suggesting they were likely scientists or staff members. This hoax video fed into existing conspiracy theories about CERN, including claims that the organization aims to open portals to other dimensions or summon otherworldly entities. However, CERN's actual purpose is to study particle physics using advanced technology like the Large Hadron Collider. At least, that's what they've always said. Level 5. The disappearance of Louise Paxton. On April 2007, 23-year-old Louise Paxton was moving from Norwich to London. She decided she would spend the whole time documenting the move and her new life through some YouTube videos. But while they initially showed her settling into her new flat in Clapham, they soon took a sinister turn when she began experiencing strange occurrences and the feeling that she was being stalked. For the next few months, Louise's videos started to show increasing paranormal activity in her flat.
Let's do something different.
She reported cold spots, unexplained noises, and an old Victorian coin's mysterious, inexplicable appearance. Despite her growing fear and distress, Louise continued to document everything, seemingly unaware that the source was supernatural rather than a human stalker. But then, on July 1st, 2007, Louise completely disappeared from her home without a trace. The final video she uploaded showed her reacting in terror to an unseen presence.
Oh God, what's she?
A website dedicated to finding her was set up, and her YouTube channel remained active, appealing for information about her whereabouts. But nobody knew where she was. Actually, the entire story of Louise Paxton was revealed to be part of an elaborate web series called In the Dark. She never existed, really, only in the context of the story, but very few people knew that. In fact, for years after its release, many viewers believed Louise Paxton was a real missing person, until they eventually found out she was simply an actress playing a role very convincingly. Sweden's sex competition. In June 2023, social media and various news outlets lit up with the news that Sweden had officially recognized sex as a sport and was set to host the first ever European Sex Championship. But the whole thing was a hoax, originating from anonymous tweets and further spread by news outlets across Asia, Europe, and Africa. They claimed the competition would begin on June 8th in Gothenburg, featuring participants competing for 6 hours daily over several weeks. And just to make it even more convincing, the posts detailed supposed rules, scoring systems, and disciplines for this completely non-existent championship. But the Swedish Sports Confederation quickly came through to debunk these claims, categorically denying the existence of any such event or the recognition of sex as a sport. In their words, this was nothing more than an effort to smear Swedish sports and the country as a whole. In fact, the real source of the misinformation was traced back to a legitimate application made by a man who runs several strip clubs in Sweden. In January 2023, he applied for membership to the Swedish Sports Confederation on behalf of the Swedish Sex Federation, aiming to classify sex as a sport. However, the application was rejected in April 2023, with the official reason being that it was incomplete and did not meet the Confederation's requirements. Despite the rejection, the Swedish Sex Federation's website continued to promote the alleged championship, contributing to the confusion. Trevor Jacob plane crash. In November 2021, 30-year-old YouTuber and former Olympic snowboarder Trevor Jacob, an experienced pilot and skydiver, took off from Lompoc Airport in a 1940 Taylorcraft BL-65 equipped with cameras and a parachute. About 35 minutes into the flight, he staged an engine failure and jumped from the aircraft with a selfie stick filming his descent. The plane crashed into a national forest while Jacob parachuted to safety. The video, "I crashed my airplane," went viral almost instantly, amassing millions of views. However, viewers and aviation experts became skeptical, noting that Jacob was already wearing a parachute and made absolutely no attempts to restart the engine or land safely. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, launched an investigation and soon determined that Jacob had crashed the plane deliberately for social media views and financial gain. Jacob had reported the crash to the National Transportation Safety Board but claimed not to know the wreckage's location. But even that was a lie. In actuality, he had secretly recovered and destroyed the aircraft to try and undermine the federal investigation and protect himself from punishment. Of course, it was simply not possible. In May 2023, Jacob pleaded guilty to one felony count of destruction and concealment with the intent to obstruct a federal investigation. He admitted that the stunt was part of a sponsorship deal with a wallet company. On December 4th, 2023, Jacob was sentenced to 6 months in federal prison. However, in a controversial decision, his pilot's license, which had been revoked in April 2022, was later reissued as a temporary certificate. Level 6. The Great Donor Show. On June 1st, 2007, Dutch broadcaster BNN broadcast a brand new live show called De Grote Donor Show, The Great Donor Show. The premise featured 25 contestants in need of a kidney transplant, all challenged to compete for the kidney of a terminally ill 37-year-old woman named Lisa. The field was slowly narrowed until only 3 finalists remained, and at home, viewers were encouraged to send text messages that would advise and help Lisa make her decision, with all proceeds going to the Dutch Kidney Foundation. But as the show got further and further into it, criticism was overwhelming from just about everybody watching it. Politicians, medical professionals, and the public were horrified by the whole thing, even the Dutch Prime Minister begging not to air the show. But the biggest twist was yet to come. Just as Lisa was about to make her life-changing decision, the hosts stopped the show to announce that the entire show was one big hoax to raise awareness of organ donation in the Netherlands. Lisa was an actress, although the 3 finalists were real patients needing kidney transplants. They, of course, were in on the whole thing, and it worked. Within days, tens of thousands of people requested organ donor forms, and the broadcast itself went on to win an international Emmy for non-scripted entertainment, even if the viewers at home were deeply disturbed by the dystopian show. The show ended up getting those 3 finalists the kidneys they needed, and all 3 are still alive at the time of upload. Baked Infant. In 2000, Chinese artist Zhu Yu exposed the world to his performance art piece, something he called Eating People. The work was a bold piece consisting of photographs of Zhu Yu himself seemingly cooking and eating what he claimed was a human fetus. Almost immediately, the images spread all over the internet, accompanied by wild, sensational claims that they represented a growing trend of fetus consumption in China. The rumors were completely unfounded, but law enforcement and intelligence agencies all over the West started investigating. But Zhu Yu had no remorse. He said that his work was a form of art intended to challenge social norms and explore the boundaries between morality and the law. But when he was asked if he used a fake fetus, he insisted he didn't. In his words, he had stolen it from a medical school. But that extremely disturbing comment convinced nobody. It's generally believed that the so-called fetus was made of a duck's body and a doll's head, though it's never actually been confirmed. However, the work continues to be spread today, complete with the misrepresentation of the image as proof of cannibalistic practices in China. And it had some unexpected consequences of its own, leading the Ministry of Culture to ban exhibitions involving cultural taboos, explicit violence, and corpses. Level 7. 2012 Summer Olympics Bomb Hoax. In April 2012, a former barrister and judge, Michael Shrimpton, contacted British authorities with a seriously worrying claim. He warned that a German intelligence agency had allegedly stolen a nuclear warhead from a sunken Russian submarine and planted it in London, intending to detonate it during the then upcoming Olympics opening ceremony. Obviously, they took Michael's warning very seriously. The only problem is that Michael had a very well-known reputation for promoting conspiracy theories. However, the police and the Ministry of Defense were obliged to investigate the claim, given the high-stakes nature of Olympic security. However, the investigation quickly revealed that Michael's warning was, of course, a total hoax. There was never any threat. As a result of his false report, Michael was arrested on April 20, 2012, and charged with communicating false information, but he was not willing to go down for this. During police questioning, he demanded compensation and insisted his arrest was a colossal cock-up. But he was in much more serious trouble. Police had uncovered a memory stick containing illegal and indecent images of children, all of which, according to Michael, was orchestrated by the same German agency he accused of planning the attack. He was convinced that they wanted him arrested to allow time for the removal of the non-existent nuclear device. Fortunately, the Olympics would go on without a hitch. Michael was not so lucky. The case ultimately went to trial in November 2014, with Michael making the poor decision to represent himself. Despite admitting that his claims sounded strange, highfalutin, incredible, and fantastic, to use his words, he denied making positive statements about the bomb threat. However, the prosecution argued that Michael's actions were an attempt to bolster his self-constructed reputation as an intelligence expert. On November 25, 2014, Michael was convicted by a jury on 2 counts of communicating false information. He was subsequently sentenced to a 12-month term of imprisonment in February 2015. 2010 Georgia News Report. On March 13, 2010, Georgian television station Imedi TV aired a fake news report which they named the Simulated Chronicle. The idea was to represent a hypothetical scenario of a Russian invasion of Georgia, complete with reports of violence, political upheaval, and military action. The 30-minute program began with accusations of the Georgian opposition organizing protests in Tbilisi over alleged election fraud. The situation soon escalated to reports of gunmen opening fire on protesters, the assassination of the South Ossetian president, and ultimately a full-scale Russian invasion. Of course, the whole broadcast was deeply harrowing, using footage from the 2008 Russo-Georgian War and featuring voiceovers of purported statements from Russian President Dmitry Medvedev and other officials. The station had deliberately aired a disclaimer at the beginning and end of the program stating it was a simulation. But of course, many viewers missed those warnings and believed that what they were watching was actually happening, a cataclysmic takeover of the entire country. The effects of the fake report were immediate and severe. Emergency services were flooded with calls, people rushed to withdraw money from ATMs, and some began preparing to flee their homes. Georgian mobile networks crashed under the strain, and there were reports of people suffering heart attacks and fainting. The simulation of a fake invasion has caused a serious, real epidemic of terror. The broadcast sparked outrage among Georgian citizens and politicians alike. Opposition leaders denounced it as government-sponsored propaganda, with some threatening legal action against Imedi TV and the authorities. The station's head later apologized for the report, but the damage had been done.